Imagine a world where uncertainty is the only thing that's certain. A world where entire city blocks can be swallowed and literally disappear in the blink of an eye. That is the world that we live in, the world that is now our reality. In retrospect, it seems fitting that our apocalypse would be man-made. We did this to ourselves. Scientists created a strange matter vacuum with greater power than we could have ever imagined, and now there's no containing it. Veil of Darkness by D.M. Slate. Beads of sweat drip down the nape of my neck, running down my perspiring back. The sun is relentless, scorching my arm as it glares through the driver's side window. Reaching for the air conditioner, I flip the switch to high. Pete sighs in relief, and I glance towards the passenger seat, smiling through my sadness. Tearing my eyes away, I look back toward the gridlocked interstate, choosing my words carefully. You know, Pete, Sunny Acres is a really great place, and you're going to make so many new friends that you won't even have time to miss me. And Gizmo will be there to keep you company, too. You'll see. What just happened? Pete, are you all right? With wide, disbelieving eyes, I stare through the windshield at the rift that's opened up before us in the middle of the interstate. The black hole creates a vertical wall of chaos, devouring everything in its path. Stranded motorists escape their cars, fleeing in all directions, running for their lives. I grab for the door handle, but then I hesitate, looking over at Pete. The man is a father figure to me. He's taken care of me since my own family was swallowed in the Denver Rift last fall. In that split second of indecision, the choice was made for me. The rift is upon us. Nausea turns my stomach and my head spins out of control. I raise a shaky hand to my temple, pressing firmly against my skull. It takes all of my strength to will my eyelids apart. Heart racing, I look to my right. Pete's there, motionless, with Gizmo prancing in his lap. Confused, I scan the horizon. It's pitch black outside and I can't see a thing. I catch a dim reflection of my own eyes in the rearview mirror, and in that instant, the memory of the rift returns. Gizmo nuzzles against my side, a small reassurance of life. I pet the animal briefly before pushing him aside. Pete, can you hear me? I shake his shoulder, but he makes no response. Reaching for the ignition, I turn the keys, but nothing happens. Panic-stricken, I crank again and again, but the car gives no response. Batting at the dash, I hit all of the switches. Only a dim interior light and one single headlight respond. The beam of luminescence cuts through the suffocating black abyss, creating a single line of vision down the ominous byway. I peer out into the murky darkness, searching for answers. It's then that I finally stop and listen for the first time. This isn't right at all. Squinting, I peer through the windshield, trying to make sense of the situation. Scattered before me, I see the haunting outline of several mangled vehicles. Gizmo, what's wrong? I turn, looking for the cause of the feral noise. Covering my ears, I try to muffle the sound. It's deafening. Painful, even. Smacking at the radio, I turn all the knobs in an attempt to make it stop, but the speakers aren't emitting the noise. It's just vibrating in the air, all around, from all directions. Burying my head in my arms, I use my biceps as earmuffs. My brain rattles within my skull, and then my body begins to seize. Shaking and twitching, I feel my eyes roll back into my head, and then everything goes black. Gizmo's sandpaper tongue rakes across my cheek once and then again. I'm slumped against the driver's window, and it takes an incredible amount of effort to sit upright. My body is drained, weak. Everything moves in slow motion, and eventually I make eye contact with myself in the mirror. Startled, I jump, alarmed at my own appearance. A clotted trail of blood leads from my nostrils, down onto my lips, and then to the bottom of my chin. I swipe at it, clumsily smearing the half-dried blood across my cheek. A black, tar-like substance oozes from my tear ducts, blurring my vision. Crying out in horror, I claw at my eyeballs with both hands. Staring in the mirror again, I realize that the eyeball itself is changing color. The blackness spans from the tear duct to nearly the center of the eye. My jaw gapes in horrified disbelief. Looking to my side, I see Gizmo, and then I remember that Pete is here, too. My eyes skim past the elderly man to the crazed cat in between us. He continues to howl, and a stiff ridge of hair sprouts on his back. What is it, Gizmo? What's wrong? I peer out the windshield. My heart skips a beat. I subconsciously hold my breath, waiting. Then, a small movement catches my eye. At the far edges of the light's reach, I see someone or something approaching my car. The gait is slow and uneven. I can't make out a distinct outline, but I can see the denseness getting closer and closer, yet always just out of view. Gizmo is plastered to the floorboard, now silent and still. I've lost track of the thing's movement. It's out there, but I don't know where. And then I feel its eyes upon me. Ever so slowly, I turn my head, looking out the driver's side window. There, on the other side of the thin glass, stands a boy of no more than 7 or 8. He stands motionless, staring at me with his black orb eyes. I recoil, jumping away from the door. My erratic motion jars Pete, driving him sideways into the passenger door. Pete, you need to wake up! I shake his arm with intensity. He lifts his head, blinking several times, before turning his gaze upon me. My stomach drops. Blackness covers his eyeballs, and another eye lens has grown over the orb, blinking with independent timing of the outer eyelid. We stare at each other for a split second before he lunges. In a frenzy of flying arms and scratching nails, he comes at me full force. Constrained by his seatbelt, I manage to avoid his grasp and flop into the back seat. Scattered boxes and belongings fill most of the space. There's nowhere to go. Now, free of his seatbelt, Pete turns upon me. Frantic, I grab for anything that I can find in the clutter. My fingers snag the rubber eyepiece of his World War II gas mask, and I swing it with all of my might. The large, metal-nosed filter connects with Pete's forehead, stopping him in mid-motion. The elderly man keels over to the side, unconscious. Without a hesitation, I lean forward into the front, opening the passenger side door. I stare out into the blackness. Adrenaline urging me on, I shove with all of my strength until Pete's limp form slides out of the car. Clambering into the front, I pull the door closed, locking it. Something's out there. My eyelids flutter open and I squint in response. There's a distant light on the horizon. Steadying myself, I focus on it, and then I realize what I'm seeing. It's the sun! It's rising! Hope flutters within my chest. I look to the mirror, finding my eyes to be no worse than they were. The blackness hasn't progressed. Creeping to the passenger door, I look out the window. Pete's body isn't there. Calmly, I sit in the seat and stare forward through the windshield toward the rising sun. At this point, all I can do is wait to see what is revealed once this veil of darkness is finally lifted. Veil of Darkness by DM Slate. To vote for DM Slate in the Wicked Women's Writing Challenge, email your votes to horroraddicts@gmail.com. To discover more DM Slate stories, visit dm-slate.com. Happy reading!